Hey, hey, welcome back, guys. All right, so Geminis, let's take a little peek. What is going on behind the mask, behind the scenes for them? We have Four of Swords. We have a King of Wands in the reverse. We have a Five of Cups, and we have the Tower. Okay, this person's going through it right now. Whomever this is, they are sitting here in silence, in solitude. They may be hiding a whole heck of a lot of tears. It's a very uncomfortable time for this person. A lot of things are collapsing, including ego, but including maybe, what they hoped that they could have, what they wish to have had with Gemini. This is somebody they're acting maybe in the silence, like it's all good, but we can see massive changes going on for them, and a lot of them are really painful. This is somebody who I don't think is used to losing out on things that they want. They may be torn between, like, this isn't fair, this isn't how I'm supposed to have to feel, this really sucks. But then also at the same time, I'm wondering if there's like a crack in we'll say their ego, where it's starting to, like, even they're recognizing maybe that's not the way I should be looking at this. I shouldn't just be saying this isn't fair. How come I feel sad? I'm not supposed to have to feel sad. It looks like there is a crack in their thought process. Death card sideways. It's also, I don't know if this is somebody did Gemini walk away from somebody and it's just now sinking in? Like, I really think Gemini is gone. I don't think Gemini is coming back to me. I don't see Gemini coming back around to me. We have High Priestess. It's weird because they're connecting to their subconscious in a way that they didn't before. By the way, they could be an Aries, they could be Scorpio, they could be a Virgo, Pisces, or Cancer, or it's like new things in them are like waking up. They came across first as a King of Wands in the reverse, so that would have been, fire sign, a Leo, Sag, or Aries. But we see them like awakening, and it's because of sorrow, it's because of unpleasantness, it's because they're starting to like feel things now. I'm wondering if this person was so selfish before and they never really lost anything that they wanted. Something was always replaced. Maybe they never really had a ton of emotions for anybody, but it turns out they really did have real emotions for Gemini. Look, with the Death card sideways, with the Judgment card sideways, again, bringing in some Scorpio here, it makes me think that they are really struggling right now with, oh my God, is this really over? Did I just lose something? What is this weird feeling that I've got? Oh, it's sadness. I lost something that I wanted. I think this is kind of good, though, that the Tower is hitting them, because they're finally maybe starting to like connect to their actual emotions. This person could have been very difficult if they were super egotistical, and the King of Wands in the reverse says that they would have been. Maybe they treated people like easy come, easy go. I can get anybody. I don't care. People come in and out of my life. I, drop people like hot potatoes. Doesn't matter. But for some reason, Gemini mattered. Why? Why is Gemini the one making this happen in your life? Although, I mean, maybe I shouldn't assume that. No, Three of Pentacles. Gemini is somebody that they liked being around. They were more productive. Like, either they had better conversations, or Gemini opened up their mind to certain things, or Gemini made them feel like, there were things of interest to do in this world. I almost feel like we're dealing with like a little prince or princess where, they snapped their little fingers and people would give them what they wanted. They were, kind of like they had access to everything, but were impressed by nothing. Almost like, if somebody never has to like work very hard for anything in their life, then they really miss out on the real sense of pride of doing something, going after a goal. If everything comes too easy and you never work for anything at all, do you get the same sense of self-satisfaction when you achieve something? It almost feels like they never had that. And there was something about dealing with Gemini that either opened their eyes up, maybe they actually physically felt more productive when they were around with Gemini. Maybe Gemini brought them into like doing things like, hey, I have these hobbies, let's go make some pottery. Let's go. I'm saying pottery just because we see kind of like this clay disc that's being fashioned. This doesn't look like metallurgy. This looks like clay, but it's like, if Gemini has a talent, a gift, a hobby, they might have kind of introduced this person to something, And this person started to find meaning, like, wow, I like creating things too. I never really got satisfaction before. And I like working with Gemini. And maybe Gemini was like a teacher to them of sorts as well. Showed them, like, you know, there's stuff you can do in life that gives you a sense of value and a sense of purpose. We have a 7 of Pentacles. It definitely had to do with Gemini taught this person how to work for something that mattered. And in that, they found some kind of real like value in themselves. I feel like Gemini is very real with them as well. But I keep getting patient teacher is what I want to say again and again with this. Like Gemini is like, oh, job well done. 3 of Swords, King of Pentacles. There's also something where I don't know if this person ever really cared about other people very much. It's people that are very selfish. Sometimes it seems like they don't have the capacity to care, but that's not true because everybody has a capacity, right? But maybe it's like that was a dormant thing inside of them. But if they ever saw Gemini hurt or they learned something about Gemini's life, they actually felt compassion for what Gemini had gone through. They also, I think, have great admiration for this Gemini. Like the way Gemini conducts themselves, they're very impressed. Something about, I don't know how Gemini might have shared with them some personal, anecdote or piece of Gemini's own life. I think Gemini has known some very, very grave wounds in their life, some huge losses. And yet I kind of think that they were very impressed. I don't think they're impressed by very many people. They were impressed by Gemini. Out of everybody, Gemini got under their skin somehow, showed them that there's something real. Didn't we just have a Gemini story a lot like this? I swear, I feel like I was saying some of these things in like the last Gemini video. 5 of Swords. Gemini might have also gotten pretty big pissed at them at some point, and that's another reason they actually really liked Gemini. Gemini's nobody's pushover, nobody's fool. Gemini's very strong. They won't accept less. They won't accept poor treatment. They won't accept rude treatment. I don't know. I keep getting this feeling that Gemini showed them what like personal dignity looks like. They do respect Gemini, but if they had to go toe to toe with Gemini at some point over an argument, Gemini put them in their place and then some. And I don't feel like this is like a begrudging, I think they crossed the line with Gemini. Whatever this is, that's the real reason they're not allowed in Gemini's life right now. And I think Gemini put them in their place. I keep feeling like, I don't know if Gemini snapped it at them or if Gemini gave them a little dose of reality and gave them a reality check and said something that was very blunt about, maybe this is when Gemini told them something real about their own life. It's like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about if you've never been through any ups and downs, or you've never had known hardship and you've never had to build yourself into something after tremendous loss or tremendous hardship. So shut the F up. It could have been something like that. It could have been that they said something that was just foolish, selfish, stupid, and, out of touch or something. And we all do that sometimes. And even like super compassionate people do that because it's like, look, you're taking my words and you're applying it to your situation, but I'm not in your situation. I wasn't thinking about your situation. I was making another, oftentimes statements can be applied to one scenario and not to another. And that doesn't mean that we've been offensive to somebody else. Sometimes, people are, I always like the Ricky Gervais comment, like, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. You can be offended, but it doesn't mean that there's anything to be offended about, because I wasn't doing it to be offensive towards you, and I think that that's good to remember. But in this story, it looks like they straight up did do something to be offensive to Gemini. And it's something that cost them the relationship with Gemini at this point. And although they were first trying to defend it, sitting there in silence and feeling like this isn't right, how come I have to feel bad about this? But then the feeling sad, feeling like I just blew it with Gemini. I don't know that Gemini is going to want to talk to me anymore. They're feeling the loss. They did not want to lose Gemini out of their life. Maybe they had like a callous, snarky sense of humor or something. And, maybe Gemini tolerated that and was still nice to him and stuff. But at some point they showed that they really come across as somebody very out of touch and missing compassion. And I think that they might have said something that really hurt Gemini because of Gemini's own experiences. And I think that was enough. Gemini's like, look, I can tolerate people with snarky humor, but you're not going to be absolutely like without compassion. I don't want to deal with somebody like this. I think this storyline speaks to me of Gemini. They think we'll never want to talk to them again. And this is really upsetting them. And I don't think that they get upset very often when I think they almost, this could be somebody who delights in being rude to people, but that's not how it feels anymore. This isn't fun anymore. NH, hi, sweetheart. Good to see you. 9 of Wands in the world. Yeah, everything here keeps saying it's, I know that on one hand, they realize Gemini is very strong, but they definitely stepped across a line with Gemini and they're like, and that's it. Everything's changed now. Probably I'll never see Gemini again. Well, let me look at this. This is what's behind the mask for them, right? The fact that they actually are really sad. They actually are really upset that I think Gemini doesn't want to see me anymore. But does that mean, are you like actually changing your behavior? Are you wanting to do something different? Queen of Swords upright. You know what? For what it's worth, I think they would like to pattern themselves very much off of Gemini. Gemini speaks some truth. They're somebody I really respect. They're somebody I would aspire to be more like. 8 of Wands. I think that this person is like, I don't know if it'll happen right away, but this is somebody who definitely, remember we have that tower already. So we know that behind the scenes right now, they're sitting there kind of like realizing that they really, I almost feel like it's a like an embarrassment or something of how they've been behaving, especially if they were snarky or they were without compassion or they just didn't really think about others or care about others anymore. I almost think this is like a big turning point for them. And I do feel like, because if you do truly have a turning point in your life, then of course you're going to talk about it. Of course you're going to want to address life differently than what you have been. So I'm not surprised to see that they may feel a compulsion, a need to talk to Gemini, even if it's just to say, you changed the way I look at things. You know, you taught me something. It feels like they have to come forward. It may not be right away. It may be 8 hours from now. It might be 8 months from now. 9 of Wands. This person is going through like a whole like meltdown and rebuilding behind the scenes. They are somebody who is, I don't know if they like overcompensated for some of their own wounds and acted like nothing mattered. If they were with that King of Wands can be super full of themselves, but also sometimes people behave in certain ways when they're just like really unhappy in their own world and don't realize it. This just says that they're going through like a complete like remodel in themselves right now. That 9 of Wands is the wounded warrior. If they have some things that they are realizing right now during this tower moment that they're going through, Justice card. Yeah, I would say, if anything, they've been incredibly humbled. Losing Gemini is the best thing that's ever happened to them because it humbled them like nothing else would have. Them saying something stupid, something rude, something callous, and having Gemini actually like snap at them like a freaking viper and give them like some serious, reality check and then bounce was like the best thing that ever happened to this character because they needed that. They needed to actually, I don't think anything would have like changed them or made them look at this situation with the eyes that they currently have to realize, other people hurt. Maybe I've been hurt, but other people hurt too. And if I'm being rude to other people, that's some bullshit. It feels like this person was, maybe they nursed their own perceived wounds, even if they were like full of themselves and selfish. Just because somebody's given everything in the world does not mean that they actually are given love and support. If this person was like, we'll just say like a silver spoon baby, never had to work for anything, had access to everything, that still doesn't mean that they had like emotional support or people that showed them what, real personal value looked like and felt like. It feels like they walked around with a big old chip on their shoulder, like I deserve everything. But then they also seem like this very kind of like tragic character. And I'm wondering if meeting Gemini, who's gone through other like seriously significant wounds, but by contrast was very rich in like, personal value and very strong. I'm wondering if that's what we see between these two characters. That's what's so different about Gemini. Maybe that's why Gemini's, being around Gemini, like penetrated that kind of like behavior that they had, that wall of, persona that they'd put up. All I can say is that they absolutely have to talk to Gemini at some point about exactly this. Like, I think Gemini showed them what was messed up about what they've been doing and how they've been behaving. I kind of love this story because I feel as if they needed a reality check. And I don't know anybody else who they could have respected to the extent that they respect Gemini. So good for Gemini for being the reality check. And the fact that it's making change in them, even though Gemini is not aware of it right now, from what I can see. Like I said, I don't know, that 8 of Wands makes me think this could be, like I said, maybe if everything's being remodeled inside of them, they always say that with a soft tissue injury, it takes like 2 years to remodel tissue. If somebody is going through a tower moment of like the soul, I would just say maybe it could take 18 months or something for that. I don't think it's going to be that Gemini hears from this person real soon. This is more like what's going on behind the scenes message storyline. And I would say significant change is going through this character, but it may be a while before Gemini finds out about it. All right, you guys, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much, Raven. So good to see you, babe. Thank you for being here. Bridget Gore, hi, baby. Thanks again, NH. You guys are so wonderful. Lots of love. I'll see you. We still have 2 more zodiacs tonight. I just put out Aries and Pisces, but we still need to get to Scorpio and Ophiuchus tonight as well. So I'll see you guys again real soon. Bye for right now, everybody. Lots of love.